Is this thing working? What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic kickoff to your week. So, decided I would chat with you guys a little bit about a topic that I had brought up earlier. It was, where's all the GT500s at? I made a short video on that, and it was pretty funny, the responses that I got. The reality is that there are so many guys out there that are buying these cars, but I'm not seeing them at the drag strip. And the reality is I had seen GT350s at this time already. In other words, the timeline of the GT350 being released versus when we saw them at the drag strip was pretty quick. And what's weird is, I posted that video up, just basically saying, where y'all at? Why aren't y'all bringing your cars to the track? I was actually hoping that I would get a response maybe from some owners of the car saying, hey man, look, we bought the car because we love the car. We're not really into drag racing, whatever. This is Houston, Texas, man. This isn't a situation where you're going to say, we buy cars and don't take them to the drag strip. We buy cars and immediately take them to the drag strip in this part of the world. And anyway, I thought it was really weird, and I didn't get any of those types of responses. In fact, I got 0 of those types of responses. But what I did get, and this was funny, hang on, I got to turn the fan on because, like I said, we're down here in Houston, and it's a swamp right now. You never know what the weather is going to be like. It can be 60 degrees one day and 90 degrees the next. That's kind of what we're going through right now. Anyway, I got quite a few folks that were telling me about Evolution Motorsports car running 9.1, but failing to mention throughout the entire process, it was primarily running 950s for the most part of that day, from what I could tell. So, kind of figured that was a little bit interesting. But by the way, Dr. Diff, what's up? Got the pound, like it. And Dim Boys is in saying, yo, been a long time no see. Glad to see you around, man. Anyway, what was interesting is it did crack the 9.1, and I was curious. The funny thing is that I want to say I was touched up by about like 5 or 6 responses to that, and it had nothing to do with the topic that I was bringing up. It was, well, so-and-so just ran a 9.1. I was like, that wasn't what I was asking. I was asking, where are all the GT500s in general, not who has the fastest GT500 or how did they go about doing that. I think there's somebody out there running 8 and 9, like high 890s, low 9s. It might have been before Evolution on a 200 shot on the back half of the track, but not 100% sure about that either. What with the transmission being more or less made out of glass, at least if you talk to most of the other people that are on the internet, what with their cars going into limp mode. So I was just curious if it was that was keeping the current owners of the GT500s from bringing their car to the drag strip, or if there was just some other reason. Didn't get that, but I had a lot of people telling me about the one car that's actually doing well at the drag strip, and even though I guess it's turned a number, there's no word as to the modifications. Which kind of brings me to my next point of other, not really, I guess you could call it a disbelief mail, about my car running 10 teams. One of the funny things that I've noticed is that when a lot of these folks are posting up videos, their cars are pretty much gutted. And my car's not, at least to the point of it still has the passenger seat, the carpet, all of that kind of good stuff. And it's just been funny whenever I see folks that are saying, oh, well, so-and-so ran a number. Yeah, so-and-so ran a number, but it wasn't really at full weight. Is it still a street car? And that whole debate started to get kicked off again too. So I don't know, just kind of bringing you guys into my world a little bit as far as how some of the comments have been coming through and some of the questions that I've been getting asked offline or through Instagram or on the emails or whatever. It's just been kind of funny how things have kind of worked out in that respect. Anyway, let me get to what you guys are up to in here. Sam Gabriel's checking in. Let's see. Talking about he's thinking about buying a used Charger Pursuit. What's a good mod set? Don't buy a Pursuit. That's your best mod set. Or if you do get a Pursuit, make sure that the cam has been replaced. Most of the Pursuits have had the cams replaced in them already. If it has, tune, trans-tune, and then from there, the world's your oyster, man. I'd probably go with an E-Force and call it good at that point. Lone Wolf is saying, hubby started my 06 Charger for the first time today and I'm so tickled. I love it. That's awesome, man. Derek's saying, so I bought a 2019 Charger Scat with a dynamic package. I take it to Sacramento Speedway and I'm more than happy with the results. I think Charger Red Eye will be next. Thoughts? We'll see. I don't see why they didn't release a Charger Red Eye. It doesn't make any sense, and especially when you consider the fact that moving forward, all Chargers, Hellcat or otherwise, are going to be wide body. It just seems to kind of walk in lockstep a little bit with the image. So I'm a bit surprised that they didn't go that route. Maybe there was some type of I don't know, certification or something like that, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised moving forward in not too long that all you would see would be Red Eye. In fact, I'm surprised the Hellcat's even still an option. Canada guy checking in. What's up, man? Saying, how are you, Nightbeat? Doing well. Hope you're doing well, too. Less than a month before I can get the 6-1 back on the streets. Can't wait. That's right. You guys up in the Great White North are still snowed in. Winter season's killing you. I know it. This is winter for us down here. I'm freaking sweating in the garage right now. E.T. Racing checking in and said, hey, Brian, what's up, E.T.? Camoli Jambaroni saying, gutted street cars are weak. Keep up the good work, brother. Appreciate that very much. Yeah, it's weird. I get it on one hand because that's kind of the game that we're playing, right? But, I keep hearing about this record or that record or whatever, and I don't know. I just haven't taken my passenger seat out. Maybe I'm just too lazy. I don't know, but I'm just not motivated to go wrenching on the thing to get the seat out of it. Not hating on anybody that does it, just curious. Here's the funny thing, though. I kind of wish I would have. So when this car went 10 teens, and last weekend had gone mid 1020s at 0 DA, and I keep forgetting to post that ride-along video. Anyway, it went 1025 at 137 miles an hour. And what's funny about that is, I was kind of taken aback by the fact that if I would remove my front seat, the passenger seat, if I would remove that thing, when the car was going teens, I would have gone probably a 10.0 or like a 10.11, right? 10.12, something like that. And that would have really freaked everybody out. So if this thing would have gone 10.0 with the seat removed, I think it would have melted some people's brains on, this car with practically no real mods to speak of, on 93 octane, no less, potentially running 10.0s, but it would take ridiculous air to do it. But we had flat DA. I think the DA when I made that pass was 9. And yeah, it covered a 1025 back to back, 1025 with a 4, 1025 with a 3, something like that. Anyway, it's just car's consistent. But yeah, if I would have pulled that seat out, it would have run a teen in flat DA. And I was thinking, well, can I claim it as a 10 teen car? If it goes 10 teens in flat DA, I guess by that rationale, it would be a 10 teen car. And I was like, there ain't no freaking way. That would be irresponsible of me to try to claim those kind of numbers. So anyway, getting back to it. Let's see. Speed Freak is saying, hey, B, I ordered the same drag pack setup that you have. Will I be able to balance the front wheels with stick-on weights, or will they not clear the brakes? You cannot use stick-ons with the fronts. You're going to have to do the old school hammer-on, and mine are on the backside. So mine are hammered on lead weights, and they're on the backside of the rim. No issues at over 150, 160 miles an hour, so you'll be just fine. But don't try to use stick-on weights. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Div's hanging out with Lone Wolf. Let's see. Hey, Derek, man, I appreciate that very much. Appreciate the contribution to the cause. Very cool, man. Thank you very much. Dim Boys is asking, any word on the Barracuda or the new Viper? Actually, yes and no. The Barracuda it's kind of more of a placeholder name. It's kind of an analogous thing. That Mopar's Halo car was also being called CUDA, with the idea that they were going to basically homologate a new platform for their Halo car, and the Viper was kind of going to be on the outs. I know that at one point they were looking into V8 powered Viper platform to make a legitimate play against the Corvette. Now, where that is gone, can't tell you, but the info that I have on that stretches back to, what was it, 2014, 2015. So that info is like 4 years old already, and in that amount of time, you got to remember that the LX platform has gone from, the LX platform is ending in 2018 to the LX platform has been carried to 2021. Now it's to 2023 with the new license agreement through FCA and Mercedes-Benz. Then it was, in the middle there, it was the Giulia platform and then the Ghibli platform, and all of that was going to be this new homologation, whatever you want to call it, or if that's even the right word. Anyway, it's been a mess, and the reality is that you're looking at status quo now for at least the next few years. And I mean, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but I would really like to see some level of commitment on Dodge's part for a true new Halo car. And I'm not sure that we're going to see that. The reason why is because the Challenger is doing so well in sales overall. Charger is doing incredibly well in sales. It's interesting just how deep these cars have cut into Ford and Chevrolet's profit margins. And FCA is going to be real happy to keep doing so. And if you haven't noticed, they're putting that Hellcat engine, the 707 variant, into basically everything now in the lineup. So we're still looking for the TRX. We're still looking for a Hellcat powered Durango. We've already got the Jeep. We've already got the Challenger. We've already got the Charger. Interestingly enough, though, the Challenger is the only two-door variant that has that engine in it. I always thought that was neat. So, by the way, that sound in the background is my fan. Sounds like the thing's about to take off. Let me adjust this thing. Hang on. Fucking damn thing. About to fly off. Fly around the damn room. Okay. So, but that's basically where you're at right now. There's just not a whole lot of viability moving forward, I don't think, in terms of a Viper or any kind of a new Halo car for FCA, because they're already doing very well with the status quo. And aside from a slight massaging of the LX platform, I wouldn't see there being any changes for the foreseeable future. And again, Derek, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sam Grable saying that Street Speed bought another stick shift Hellcat. Very cool. Vegas 7693 saying, what's up, Mason? I'm experiencing lifter problems on my 12 Charger RT. Any recommendations on a specific brand of lifter or any advice in general? Well, a couple of things. The latest Magneti Morelli lifters are pretty good. The older style had issues with the bearings and the roller, and that was causing some failures. Other people were saying that it might have had something to do with oil quality or something like that. So I'd say if you're truly running into problems with lifters, you need to do something about that real quick, because that problem's not going to heal itself. I would probably start looking into either a cam swap or, and that you'd go with, Hellcat lifters anyway. And just basically go from there, because to get those lifters out, you got to pull the heads anyway. You're going to be tearing the thing apart. Go with an aftermarket cam, custom grind, be your best bet. Get that thing tuned and get it out there and have a good time with it. Now is the time. Dr. Div saying, care to share your thoughts on what we talked about earlier? Oh yeah, I was interested to see the data on the no-tune pulley. So my thoughts, so Dr. Diff and I were on the phone a little bit earlier tonight, and we were talking about this no-tune pulley thing, and how that has been getting some publicity of late. And the interesting thing about that has been just how marketable, I'm sorry, I should say how gullible the marketing has proven folks to be. So Dr. Diff had an opportunity to get his hands on a car with one of those quote unquote no-tune pulleys and discovered a few things, namely that it was hitting cat over temp a little bit earlier, I think, than it really should have based on drive time. But aside from that, it was yanking about 6 to 8 degrees of timing, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember the conversation correctly. It was yanking 6 to 8 degrees of short-term knock retard across the board. And this is in a car that was taken to the drag strip and had been beaten on, or at least driven with gusto during lower DA atmospheric conditions. Basically, Dr. Diff was more or less, and I don't want to speak out of turn here for you, buddy, but sounded to me like after giving me the breakdown on the data, you're pretty much surprised the car was still holding together. Guys, I cannot express to you that there is no such thing as a no-tune pulley setup. I will concede the fact that if you live in an area which is set at a much higher physical altitude, then it might make sense for you, because this is a belt-driven supercharger. You are still going to be hampered by atmospheric conditions. In other words, it's going to act like a naturally aspirated engine in terms of the amount of air it can ingest. Then spinning the blower a little bit faster will help you gain some of that boost that you're losing due to physical altitude constraints. However, if you live in 0 DA area, in other words, let's say you live in Louisiana and you throw a no-tune pulley on your car, you're now throwing more boost at it. You have a higher manifold pressure, which is great, but the only problem with that is that you may be going outside of the parameters of the tune itself. And that's not a big deal. On a stock car, it'll just lock out timing or lock out fueling. It's going to still calculate total airflow and you'll be just fine. The issue you run into is that if you're locking out timing, you could be over-timed for the amount of boost that you're running based on your DA. Look, man, caveat emptor on this one. If you want to go out and grab yourself one of those things and run it on your car, it's your car, man. Do whatever you want to do. But I highly discourage anybody from putting any pulleys on any car that came from the factory with boost without tuning it. Take that a step farther. When I worked at Pikes, we had a customer bring a ZL1 in, brand new ZL1, gorgeous car, with a popped motor. Brand new car, popped the hood and it had a pulley on it. This guy was told that he could run a pulley on his car. This is a ZL1, but the same holds true. Oh yeah, you can run a pulley on that thing, don't worry about it. The computer will take care of it. They've got provisions for, boom, car blows up. And guess what? No provision for warranty. Guy had to buy a brand new short block. It was a complete mess. The car still had to be tuned, and here you are, one other person being told that he could, in confidence, took the person's advice, but they weren't there to cover the bill when that car popped. And that's, I guess, more to the point. If they are going to say no tune needed, I can't believe I have to say this, but if anybody tells you there is no tune needed, then they need to be able to stand behind that with a guarantee. Something that goes, hey, no tune needed. Your car will be just fine. You'll have stock reliability. If it pops, we'll cover the cost of a short block, the labor, we'll give you a rental car, the whole bit. If they're not willing to stand behind it with that type of a guarantee, run. Don't walk away from that particular part. And look, I get it. I'm one to talk, right? Because there's no guarantee even with mild tuning. Shit, there's no guarantee with a stock car once you start fiddling around with these things. And I've seen stock cars pop on the dyno. Doesn't matter if it's a Ford, Dodge, Chevrolet, they all break on the dyno, believe me. So I've seen it all. And even then, there's your warranty is a little bit suspect. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, if you're buying one of those pulleys, and the questions come up, I'll get touched up at the drag strip. Guys will say, "Hey, you're that bald Mopar moron." Yeah, I get that sometimes, and they'll ask me questions about that. And I had one guy at the drag strip convinced that he had stumbled across this pulley and it was going to be an amazing thing for his. He had a Hellcat, I think it was a Hellcat Charger. Tried to talk him out of it. We'll see. I don't know. Time will tell, but I am shocked that some of these cars are still running around. It's a testament to how stout some of these cars are. He's saying, your car's so fast, where you hide your sneaky Pete. Man, I tell you what, if I did have this thing on spray, it would go nuts. Believe that. Don't need no sneaky Pete. Let's see. Doc Diff saying, yep, it started. Yep, talking about that. Talking about the issues with that car. Let's see. Sam's asking, is a used Hellcat a good idea? A used car? I mean, it's a car, man. That used Hellcat, it all depends on who owned it before you do. If they've taken care of it, they've really hung tight with their maintenance. If they're an enthusiast, then yeah, it's a great car to buy. And as long as you carry that maintenance forward, it's going to be a fantastic car for years and years and years and years to come. But if the person didn't take care of it, didn't change the oil, neglected it, then yeah, it's going to be a piece of shit. And it's, that's just the way that it is. I mean, the vehicles will typically reflect their owner's maintenance habits. And the good thing about a Hellcat is that they're incredibly robust from the factory. So, but they're not bomb-proof. No car is, and if you maintain it, it'll remain extremely healthy no matter what you're doing with it. So, yeah, I'd say worth it. Derek's asking, is it worth forging the internals in the 392 to start a power build? Is it better to do the 426 build similar to your buddy with the yellow Charger Scat? So here's what I would suggest with that. First of all, you have to have a goal coming into this, and a low compression 426 is not going to make any more power. It's not going to make any more torque than a normal 392. In fact, it might be a little bit down, especially if you go with like a 9-to-1. Most of them, I think Arrington is a 9.5-to-1, and that'll make a little bit more power than a 392, but not by much. So what I would suggest to you is, if you're planning on going built, go with, I would say, a custom set of pistons and go 10-to-1, but it depends on the type of boost that you plan on running too. If you're going to be going with positive displacement, then, really the compression ratio doesn't matter because you're always in boost. And to give you an idea, Hellcats are 9.5-to-1. The old E55 was actually 7.9-to-1. These are cars that just hung on the compressor, and they made 10, 12, 14 pounds of boost. Is typical for positive displacement cars nowadays on 93 octane. So yeah, that compression ratio really doesn't matter. Now, if you're going with a centrifugal style supercharger, I would highly suggest going with a little bit higher compression, because without that compression, it's going to be a dog under any other conditions than wide open throttle on the far right-hand side of the dyno graph. So yeah, I mean, you can start that build process if you like. If that's something that you want to do and you've got that budgeted, I would suggest doing the entire build at once. I really wouldn't build an engine only to have to keep coming back and possibly doing something later on down the line. If you're going to do it, do it. And but make sure you've got a plan, and make sure that you have the goals already set, written down for what you want to do with that car. The simple build of the thing, it doesn't lend very well to where the car is going to end up. So again, know the type of boost that you're going to run. Turbo, 10-to-1 is good. Centrifugal supercharger, I would say 10-to-1 would be where you'd want to start. All the way up to 11-to-1 on a centrifugal supercharger. if you're going to go positive displacement, it really doesn't matter. I'd say 9.5 is fine. Whatever the current short block is. And then cam selection, just get a custom grind, something with a nice wide LSA to make it a little bit more streetable would be a good idea. Also to help evacuate some of the exhaust gases. So there you go. That would be my suggestion. Hopefully that helps you. Let's see. Lone Wolf and Dr. Diff hanging out. Let's see. Speed Freak saying, learn about Q16, the nasty. Let's see, if this is run 4 times a year at the track, how terrible is it on O2 sensors and plugs? Leaning towards keeping the cats and tuning on MS109 if Q16 is that bad. I wouldn't bother with Q16, man. I really wouldn't. Stick to MS109. I like MS109. It's a little bit higher in ethanol, if memory serves me correctly. I like MS109 a little bit more than Sunoco 260 GT Plus, but if you tune for either one of the fuels, you can throw an extra 2.5 degrees of timing at it fairly reliably on the far right and bottom side of the timing table and be in pretty good shape. So I wouldn't bother with Q16. The good thing about Q16 is it's knock proof. I mean, you just keep throwing timing at it until it quits making power. But it's going to be pretty caustic to everything. It's not really going to hurt the O2 sensors if you're running it, sparingly. But yeah, you're not going to want to mess with catalytic converters with that fuel at all. So yeah, stick with MS109 or Sunoco 260 GT or GT Plus would be my suggestion. Let's see, Dr. Div saying, would love to see a Hellcat powered Viper. Definitely would compete with the new Vet if it had some sort of traction control and technology. It would be a cool throwback. They were talking, so this is going back to like 2014, 2015. That was actually one of the primary issues that the marketing guy that I was talking to was bringing up, was that they can't find a home for a V10 really anymore realistically, with the fact that they have the Hellcat platform now. It supersedes it in terms of power, packaging, the whole 9 yards. And the other thing is that he was intimating to me that it had more to do with the fact that the car has to have an automatic transmission option, and you've got to make it appeal to all segments, all walks of life, and you've got to, and not only to different income brackets, but you've got to be able to make it appeal to female buyers, which is something the Viper didn't do. I think the Viper buying demographic was like a whole 97% male, 98% male. So that's not a good market strategy. You've got to have a car that appeals to everybody, and the Corvette does. Solid, naturally aspirated V8 making somewhere around 500 horsepower would give a 3,600 pound car plenty of juice, especially if it's a 392 making roughly the same amount of torque. That thing would be a riot on the street. It'd be really fast. Add to that an option for maybe an all aluminum Hellcat variant, whether it's Red Eye or the Hellcat or what have you, and now you've really got a recipe for success. Lots of torque, lots of range on that car to do whatever you want to do. Drag racing, road racing, grand touring, it doesn't matter. That platform will do it. Plus, it's an existing platform, and it's probably less expensive based on laws of marginal utility at this point to build than that Viper V10 would be. So anyway, that's part of a conversation that this guy and I had. And what was strange is that this was at Mecum, and we had a conversation that was about, I want to say it was about 2 hours long. So anyway, good stuff for sure. Let's see. Them boys saying, well, Dodge has a good chance of taking out the Vet because I don't think the 8-speed DCT is going to hold up as well as that 7-speed DCT in the GT500 isn't doing that good. Here's the thing with that. That's a really good point that you bring up. And it's a point that I can really sink my teeth into. So let me just use that point to springboard into a bit of another topic here. Well, no, let me just focus on what you brought up, my friend. So you're exactly right. The HP90 transmission or the TR6060 in that type of a platform would be a freaking recipe for just success with a side of success. It is unbelievable the appeal that car would have, especially to a buying demographic of, say, 30 to 65, and male and female, with a very wide, like, just shotgun spread of appeal, because it would be front drive, it'd be sexy looking as hell. It wouldn't have the Transformers look to it the way the new Vet does. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just a little bit too angular looking. It's not, and it doesn't, anyway, I've got some with that car. Now, Z06 I'm sure will look great, but this is like a little bit not really my flavor. Anyway, getting back to it, it would have an unbelievable appeal with a shotgun spread that the new Vet may not have. And you could do it for fairly cheap. You could take the existing platform. What the hell flew up my nose? You could take the existing platform, make some minor changes to it, and you would already you'd be well on your way to success basically with that car. So yeah, it's a shame that you don't see them really moving forward with that. Now, I will say this. One of the other issues that we're talking about was, I started off talking about the GT500. Here's the problem that I have with the GT500. This is no joke. I am a Mopar fan. I love Mopar stuff. I love my 392, love my truck. Absolutely in love with this Hellcat. But I'll tell you guys something right now. And this kind of sucks to say, but if the GT500 was released with a beefed up version of that 10-speed automatic, or with a true manual transmission, there is and at a reasonable price where they're not asking stupid money for this thing. It's a freaking Ford Mustang, for crying out loud. I don't care what's powering it. If that car would have had that transmission, it would have been unbelievably difficult for me to not justify having one of those cars in my garage. That car to me represented the potential for the GT500 to reclaim its place as the bad boy on the block. I mean, there is a strong sentimental tug for me for GT500s in general, only to have, it's so funny, only to have basically every old school buyer out there get alienated by that transmission choice. What a train wreck. Anyway, getting back to it. Hang on just a sec. Hey, Sean, appreciate that. Saying a little nugget for the window tint fund. I like it. Saying that his 03 Cobra had a very rich tune from the factory, and that could probably have survived a mild pulley stock. Well, we're talking, that's apples and oranges, bro. I mean, yeah, it probably could have survived it, but I don't know that I would have gone that route. And you can say that it was rich. Rich doesn't have anything to do with timing, and the issue is all in the timing. And got it mid-flight too. Go back to hell where you came from, mosquito. And I get it. Actually, the Lightning was the same way. Don't forget, and I spent a lot of time tuning a Lightning, and I can tell you that they don't like any more than 14 degrees with a 6-pound pulley. So there was, the older cars, yeah, you could probably get away with a little bit more, but maybe not. Those Eatons were not very efficient superchargers. In fact, they didn't call them Heatons for nothing. Those things would, you could fry an egg on those things. So yeah, I would still suggest keeping a tune on that bad boy. Let's see. We get back to you guys here. Let's see, Sam's asking, what are your thoughts on a Hellcat Daytona Charger? They're nice, actually. If you haven't seen one, check them out. But I like them. Let's see. I'm missing out here. What am I missing here? Got a couple of jokers in here saying, Cam Ullage and Brody saying, I've been patiently waiting for a Hellcat powered regular cab ram, but it isn't going to happen. Going to have to put a Whipple on mine. Yeah, Whipples were good. I mean, you can go Whip, you can go the E-Force, which is also really good. Or talk to Dr. Diff and go turbo on that bad boy too. Let's see, Dr. Diff saying, I thought maybe you had a helicopter above your house. Must have hauled ass home. Man, you better believe it. Don't mess around down here, bro. E.T. Racing talking about the fan. Yeah, I know. Thanks in the background. Jason's saying, hey, realize I still have my 392 in the thumbnail. Yeah, I don't plan on taking that down. I loved that car. And I got to tell you, if Little Miss Revlon wouldn't have popped up out of nowhere for sale, I probably would still have that car. But the deal that I got this thing for was just too good to pass up. But I do like me some 392s. Oh, Ashley's saying we finally switched to HP tuners on Saturday. Very good. Y'all needed to do that too, because I think y'all are running into a situation with your car where you're going to need to start making some changes. Just make sure you do your read file properly. But y'all be in good shape. I'm gonna get that down to Alex and have him throw a tune in that bad boy too. Let's see, Canada guy is saying one thing incredible to see would be a low budget new platform V8 rear wheel drive true to form muscle car. Could use the Roadrunner name, but I'm just dreaming. You know, I'll tell you something. I had kind of thought that Mopar was going to do that at one point. This is going back a ways, but that's kind of what the Scat Pack ended up being in a kind of a roundabout way. Because before, you had the SRT8 6.1, when they released the Scat Pack and they said, hey man, the 6.4 is going to be available in something that's not an SRT8, kind of a stripped down version. A lot of folks went haywire over that, going, man, this is great, stripped down, that's awesome. So yeah, they kind of did it with that, but the days of having a true lightweight car with a big engine and all that probably are over with. I just don't see it happening with all the crash regulations and everything else. But it would be pretty cool if they did something like that, or at least did something cool, but doubt it's going to happen. Johnny's saying, hi, do you think they're going to skip that refresh and tweaking of the LX platform? They're going to run the current car right into a major change. I don't know, man. For everything that I've heard, it was going to be a refresh of the LX platform, and that was going to take place in 2023. But I had also, we were also all told that it was the platform itself was going to be canceled in 21, and then before that it was 18, which the 18 kind of made sense. It was a 10-year run, but they just kept selling them and people kept buying them. So can you blame them? I mean, it's a pretty damn good platform, all things considered, and people call it heavy and all this other stuff. Well, the new Mustang GT500 isn't exactly a lightweight, and these things are running pretty good just the way that they sit. So, are they as fast top end wise as a Mustang with a 392 versus Coyote? It's kind of hard to compare the two because there is such a vast weight difference. But I don't know. The reality is, I think that these things are a lot more. They have a lot wider appeal than a car like the Camaro has, and it makes for a great bookend with the Mustang. So really the question is, it's not what will Dodge do with the LX platform, it's what will Chevrolet do with the Camaro to keep it viable moving forward. Because again, y'all have heard me talk about the Camaro for a long time now. It's the worst of both worlds. It's not as muscle car-y as a Challenger, and it doesn't do Mustang as good as the Mustang. So anyway, getting off topic there. Let's see. Alex is asking, is Dodge using the Morelli lifters in production now? When did that start? So Magneti Morelli was the parts, like the parts division, and my understanding was that they were the ones that were part of the redesign or retooling, or however you want to put it, for the lifters. That was something that I picked up on. I forget. I read something on it. God, this is going back probably 2 years ago. 2-ish years ago. But I'm gonna caution that just by saying this. I have seen lifter failures still taking place on cars that were built up through 2018. So I'm not familiar with any in 19, although I could be wrong. But there was still a smattering of the lifters hanging out there. So, but yeah, I believe it was Magneti Morelli was, because it's the Dodge general, parts manufacturer. And that's where that came from. So that would have been a while back. Hey y'all, what's up, Rip? Tansa meant to say, hey, Mason, quick question. What is the best way to fix the Hemi tick on a 2015 Charger RT57? I had a few 2015 and up 5.7 Hemi cars, and this one is the loudest. It only has 60,000 miles. Well, the same way to fix that is the same way you fixed them before. It's probably got, some of the manifold bolts back out. That said, make sure that it is not a lifter going bad, and you're going to certainly want to take it to the dealership and have it diagnosed. My 2014 Ram had the lifters start to go out, and the way that you can tell the difference is if you fire the vehicle up and it goes tick, 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 and then it goes away. That is that's just the Hemi tick, and you've got to get either a new bolt if it's fallen out, or you're going to have to get the bolts just tightened up on the manifolds. That's that. If it ticks when you start it and you rev it up and the ticking goes away, you get off the throttle and it comes back and it really doesn't go away, that is a bad tick. You might hear a chirp. It's like a chirp and a tick combined. That's how I identified mine in the truck. And I lit it off one day and it went tick, tick, and it had this like chirp, this underlying chirp to it. And I went, that's a bad lifter. And literally drove it from the house to the dealership. So made it just in the nick of time too. Oh, Shawnee's checking in with Rift. What's up? Let's see. Doc Diff is hanging out with Viages. Let's see. Everybody's counting. All my northern brethren are counting down the days for their track to open. I love it. Sam's asking, I forgot what you said about Hellcat cams. I've said a lot of stuff about Hellcat cams. Primarily, if you're putting a cam in a Hellcat, you're going to want to make sure that you're pulleying up before you do so. Let's see. And again, thank you for the contribution to the cause, John. Saying, but I still tuned it when I put a pulley on it. Oh, and it's a much lighter platform than a Hellcat. There's always that. Ashley's asking, did Chris accept that second butt whooping yet? No shade to Chris. Actually, here's the funny thing. So we went to the track last Friday, and this is the last opportunity that we had for a test and tune, probably for the 3 weeks. He was so adamant about hooking up. He did not get a clean pass that night that you and him lined up. He was bound and determined. So all night long, his car was dead hooking. And I mean, the car was just nasty all night. 10:30, 10:30, 10:30. Myself, on the other hand, I got 2 clean passes and lit the tires up on this thing on every other pass. And that is 100% on me, because I should have dropped tire pressure because the temperature was higher. Tires went up a little bit due to Mother Nature, and Joke's on me, but the car did still run 1020s while I had traction. But yes, Chris is fine with his butt whipping. He will see you the next time y'all are at the track. That's awesome. Rip is asking, what do you run for PSI on your Tri-5s for daily driving? I run them at 27 PSI. Shawnee's saying, 1016 with your car is in the 100th percentile at this point. Where do you go from here to find something interesting for you to do at the strip of the car? You know, I don't really have a direction above where I am right now with that thing. And the reason for that is I'm not going to put pulleys on it, and I don't have any real reason to put a tune together. Aside from maybe, I'm debating this, but I'm kicking around the idea of putting a 260 GT tune together for the car. Basically, just a straight race gas tune. May tune it on 260 GT Plus, but just whatever I can get my hands on, whatever is convenient, to be honest with you. And really, that tune is just a few keystrokes and you're done type of a situation. So that would be about the only thing that I would do, and just play with it at that point. But the car's doing great on 93 octane. It's carrying mile an hour. I mean, I just don't know how much more I can realistically get out of the car on stock boost on gasoline. I can probably chop a couple of tenths out of it, get the car into the 10.0 range on race gas on any given night, like a 0 to a 1,200 foot day. Could be running in the 10.0s, high 9s if I just had obnoxious air. But if I do that, then I'm going to be pulling weight out of the car, which only in my case means I'm taking the seat out of it. And realistically, the night that it ran 10 teens, it would have been running 10.0s if I had pulled that seat out of there. So at least I would have had one, maybe two 10.0 passes out of the car. So I don't really know where else I can go with it, aside from the fact that I can still remove weight and try to pick up ET there. But then you get stuck in this whole, how much of the car is left of the car. If I pull the seats out, I might as well, why am I going to stop there? And so now it just turns into a negotiation, or it sounds more like, I should say, a negotiation in terms of weight reduction. I'm having too much fun with the car the way that it sits, and I like to champion 93 octane and in a car that is an everyman's Hellcat, so to speak. It does everything really well, and I want to leave it that way. And if somebody's faster than this car on stock boost, it's certainly going to take a tune that is more aggressive than mine on a more aggressive or a more exotic type of a fuel. Everybody has got a budget, and I'll tell you this, I would rather put the money and the time and the effort into generating revenue to throw tires on this thing than to try to see if I can get a 9-second pass out of the car in either A, conditions that you only get 3 to 4 times a year, or B, in a situation, or at least in a state of tune that I don't really ever drive the car. Keep in mind, I love driving this thing. I mean, getting this thing out on the open road and just going for a long road trip is something that my wife and I have a lot of fun doing. So, not that the tune or anything like that would take away from that. It wouldn't. I mean, you just swap the tunes out and you go on about it. But we'll see. It's a good question. I've been kind of debating on what I want to do with it. Again, putting a tune together for race gas is super easy, especially the way that the car sits now. There's really nothing to it. And again, it's just, throwing a couple of degrees of timing at it and letting her rip, basically. So, I don't know. I will say this, that would be with like 260 GT or something like that. I'd have to throw a decent amount of timing at it to really see a decent enough difference. But here's a point to that I would like to bring up. Let's say I picked up 0.3 of a second. And here's the funny thing about drag racing, that somebody that is not a part of drag racing would literally not understand this. But I think that we're all amongst fam, right? So to do that, it would take to pick up 3/10, it would take race gas, certainly timing, a lot of track test and tune to just really dial the thing in to get the thing to run probably like a 995 or a 996. So I would need to pick up at least 2/10 to solidly do that. Let me tell you how little amount of time 2/10 is and how close the car is to running a 9-second pass right now as it sits. A 10/16, it sounds close, but it's miles away in terms of drag racing. But to just put things into perspective, check this out. I'm going to blink my eyes, okay? Blink, okay? Blink. I'm going to blink them 4 times. Blink, 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 blink. That blink of the eye is roughly 3/10 of a second. If I blink it just right, it's 2.5 tenths. It's a quarter of a second. 2.5 tenths is literally the blink of an eye. It's going through the traps. You almost can't even clap your hands to the cadence of the nose going through the traps of one car and the nose going through the traps of the other cars. And at that speed, it's about a car length. It's a little bit less than a car length, actually. That is the difference in how close this thing is into running 9s. The way that it sits now, running 1025s in 0 DA. That means I would have to put a ton of, time, although the tune wouldn't take that much. The fuel wouldn't take that much, but it would be fun to see if I could get a 9-second pass out of the car in roughly 1,000-foot DA on race gas. So that might be my next plan of attack. But I literally have to pick up the blink of an eye to do it. That's how close the car is already. Just to put things into perspective. Dr. Dev saying, to the comment earlier about the built engine versus 426, I love the fact that my built 5.7 and it's making great power with small cubic inches and can spin it high. If I were to do it again, I'd do the same. Yeah, all of them. See, the thing is when we start talking about boost, by the way, it doesn't matter. Displacement stops mattering when you start throwing boost at something, especially nowadays, because if you need to make more power, you just give it more boost, right? I mean, that's all there is to it. Especially if you're running turbo, it's a little too easy to it's dial an ET at that point. So, but yeah, once you start going built, makes it tough to start to justify a lot of the costs involved. But 426 with a blower, it's a fun package. But just remember that there are limitations to everything, and realistically, the limitation at that point is the transmission. The HP70 can only handle so much torque, and if you're running stock tires, you'll never hurt the transmission because your tire is your fusible link, so to speak, at that point. But you put that thing on a real sticky tire on a prepared drag strip, there's a great chance you're going to start tearing parts out from underneath that car. White Knuckle RT, what is up, man? Saying, hey, D, what's up, brother? Got the thumbs up in the panel. I like it. Say, what do you think of this Stang Mode guy and all of his bragging about his 1055 record-setting stock GT500? I think that's all in for one of those. Thoughts on that? Look, here's the problem that I've got with that. There aren't enough successful GT500 owners out there running around to convince me that that's a good time for that car, to be honest with you. I think it's a bit of a bummer, really, that a car with 700 and a shitload of horsepowers at that weight is running 755, regardless of the tire that you put on it. It's a function of the fact that the transmission won't allow any more torque to go through it at launch, and you're seeing every single YouTuber that I've seen with a GT500 has run into the same issue with the transmission going into limp mode. And you know, for whatever that's worth, I would be infuriated if I were to take my car to the drag strip and it went into limp mode for seemingly no reason. I don't know why the cars are going into limp mode, but they are, right? So, but a 1055, I don't, man, look, if your car, if it's one of the more modern cars now and you're on a tire or you have that level of technology that's gone into your car, it should be running mid-10s. So, I mean, part of me is not really surprised, aside from I'm just wondering how long the transmission and the clutches and everything else are gonna last. Actually, to be honest with you guys, I'm more fascinated than I am anything else. I'm watching this almost the same way that you watch like I don't know, you know, one of those murder mystery shows, you know, like a Lifetime movie where you're sitting there going, damn, I know this thing, I know that guy killed it, or killed the other guy or whatever, but you know, I got to see this thing play out. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. And pardon the pun, maybe. But the thing is that I'm fascinated as to how long the transmission is going to last. I'm really intrigued as far as, you know, what is going to be next for that car in terms of transmission tuning. There's a lot of things that I'm really excited about with that car. I don't want to sell it short just because they're burning up clutches or they're going into limp mode or whatever the case is. I will say this though, that 1055 that he ran, you don't see him running 1055s over and over and over again, or 1060s or whatever the case is over and over and over again. What you find more is you're finding them running like a 1070, 1080, maybe a high 1060, regardless of the conditions. And a lot of that has to do with just the launch of that car. But every once in a while, you'll see one tickle a good number in really, really deep, stupid, good DA. Fantastic. You know, holler at it, you know, throw that out there. But, you know, just like me, man, my car ran a 1016, a 1017, and a 1019 in really good DA. But took it to the drag strip in 0 DA. DA corrected my own car, so to speak, and it went a 1025. With hardly anything really done to it. You know, sure, it's got a gear, whatever. Look, get with me when they're doing that. Get with me when they start running 10.2s at stock boost. And that's the other thing too. I am so far and away not interested in what a car will do when you start feeding it a bunch more boost with nitrous oxide on the back end of that. You start talking about modded with the side of mods, that doesn't really do anything for me. And the whole reason for it is, once you start getting that deep into the car, then you're just another modded car. And if you're just another modded car, you get thrown into the same gumbo as everybody else's modded car, which means modded Corvette, modded trucks, modded F-150 with a Whipple, and all these other trucks and cars that are a lot more interesting to watch. Perfect example of that. Again, it's no secret, I live in Houston, Texas. Down here, trucks are real big to make hot rods out of, for a lot of good reasons. They're a lot easier to work on, they're cheaper, you can go just as fast with a truck as you can with a car nowadays, etc., etc. We've got F-150s down here that are running 9.1, 9.4s, all right? We've got LS trucks that are in the 7s. We've got trucks that drive themselves to the drag strip that are running in the high 8s, low 9s. That's what I'm impressed by. And, you know, you've got, you've just got the Mopar side of it. We've got 9-second, 10-second, high 11, low 11-second trucks. We've got the just freaking, the amount of fast stuff that isn't supposed to go fast is all over the place down here. So for somebody with a modded Mustang to go 9.1 and try to be all secretive about it, and oh, it's just a ported blower and you know, whatever. They don't. And don't try to get anybody worked up over it. The fact of the matter is that there are plenty of GT500s that are here in Houston that are not going to the drag strip for whatever reason. So whether it's staying mode going 1055 or your regular casual guy going 1090s, it doesn't matter. If you're not taking your car to the drag strip, what's the point? You know what I mean? Man, I really danced around a weird way on that one, didn't I? Anyway, getting back to it. Time out. Hold up. Vince, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate the contribution to the cause. Saying, what's up, B? Okay, man, I got a 16 Hellcat in tri-coat pearl red. Very nice. 15,000 miles, clean Carfax, lined up for purchase. It's out of state. If I fly out there, anything to look out for in that model year? Yeah. So, a 16, what you want to look at, first of all, just overall condition of the car. Obviously, you're going to want to take a look at the oil. You're going to want to take a look at, if you can get the thing on a lift, take a look at the half shafts, make sure that they're not leaking. Take a look at the drive shaft, make sure that everything just looks good. Here's the funny thing about Hellcats, especially 15, 16, 17s. Try to find out if, on the warranty side, try to find out if the blower snout has been replaced on that car. Some of those cars had issues with bearings. Early 15s did not have that problem. 16s, late 15s, some 16s, and some 17s had problems with that. So there's that to consider, that snout. If it hadn't been replaced, just know that that could be a thing, and your warranty is potentially going to be running out soon. So, you know, word to the wise on that. Other things to look out for. Let me think. Look for signs of modifications. You know, you never want to buy a modded, overly modded car. If it does have any mods, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but make sure that you have a build sheet. Who did they get the car modded through, etc. Make sure that there's no illegal modifications. In other words, make sure it still has the catalytic converters. Also, check it to see if it's got a mid-muffler delete. There's nothing more annoying if you're going to buy one of these cars, if it's got a mid-muffler delete as opposed to a full cat back. You know, it's not that it's a sign that the car was neglected or anything like that, but it can be a minor red flag, at least in my opinion. If for no other reason that you got to drive this thing back and it's going to be loud, potentially louder than you want to, louder than you may potentially want to deal with. Take a look at the rotors. Make sure that the rotors aren't overly cracked. Some of the cars had issues if they were driven really hard with the rotors. Make sure it doesn't have too much of a lip. Check for pad wear. Aside from that, just give it a really good once over, man. There's nothing that really goes wrong with Hellcats. That's one of the best things about them is that, man, they are robust. I have seen, dude, I've seen some Hellcats go through hell and back. And, I mean, they just keep on a trucking. So there's at least that to consider. But again, you know, check for signs of mods, things like that. That's the main thing. You know, you want a stock car, so, or at least as stock as you can find one. And there's a lot of really clean stock ones out there you can still get your hands on too. But thank you very much for the contribution to the cause. And hopefully that helps you out. All right, let me get back up here. Bear with me just 1 second. I don't want to pass over anybody. We got a lot of folks to catch up on. I've been kind of rambling on here for a minute. Let's see. Oh, where'd he go? Where'd he go? Sorry. Let's see. Oh, Dr. Div saying that he loves MS-109. Yeah, MS-109 is good stuff, man. I like it too. MS-109 or Sunoco 260 GT Plus, you know, both oxygenated, both ethanol based, or not based, ethanol fuels, type fuels, have ethanol in them. Oh, Canada guys hanging out with Dr. Diff. Let's see. Riff saying, I very rarely see your cat without its drag pack on. Yeah, here lately it's been spending a lot of time on a drag strip. But that's how we learn. Shawnee's saying that he runs about 32 pounds on the street with his Nittos. Still doesn't hook great in first and second, but it will pull safely under mild throttle and then full throttle after third gear, which is 100% accurate. Sam Jackson's in saying, what's the best year used Hellcat? Does it matter or just go for the cheapest one? No, do not go for the cheapest one. That's not a good play. So here's the thing. So let me give you my story. I bought my car because it was a very early release 2015, and that meant something to me. I wanted the brochure car. I wanted the cover girl. I wanted I wanted to kind of recapture some of that shock and awe, so to speak, of the Hellcat. My car's birthday is November 19th, 2014. So it's actually it's on the tail end of the first run or the very beginning of the second run of these cars. I mean, it was super, super early in the production run. That's why I went with a 15. There just weren't any issues with 15s that I knew of, especially the early cars. So that's why I wanted that car. But if I were not looking specifically for an early run 2015, I would say go with a 2017 or a 2018 and up. And the reason for that is number one, the drive shaft. The drive shaft in 2015 and 2016 is a little bit thinner wall, and I think that's where they're running into some issues with it. My understanding is in 2017 and up, they just have a bit more of a robust drive shaft. If you're going to keep it stock boost, you'll be just fine. But you start throwing any real amount of power at it, you're going to want to go with aftermarket anyway. But or Red Eye if they take that off of the blocked list, so to speak. But anyway, getting around myself here. I also like the idea of the 2017 because they're non-mass air cars. These cars are mass air, and they really don't use mass air the way that you might think. They're really more using mass air for airflow calculation as opposed to neural network, I guess, in the case of the 17s. Anyway, they don't have a mass air meter, which can make it doesn't really matter for the stuff that I'm doing with the cars, but there's some conveniences that you can have without having to worry about a mass air meter. But anyway, those would be the reasons why I would go with the 17 and up. I really like the 18s and 19s with the Uconnect. There's some the Uconnect to be a bit less glitchy on the newer cars. However, I really haven't run into any big problems with my car. But every once in a while, the older cars, the Uconnect will just glitch. It just kind of skitzes out. And the newer cars have some more features to them as well. So that's something to consider. But the main thing is if you've got to save up for a little bit longer, man, look, there ain't no sin in saving up. And if it just means that you got to eat broccoli and tuna fish for another 6 months, then so be it. But I've been there before, and kudos and cheers to you. But yeah, go that, I would say go that route and you'll be in pretty good shape. Let's see. White Knuckles asking, me and X were both on live. Yeah, I got the notification while when I was yammering on here. Say, what do you think about X selling his Hellcat? Man, if he wants to get a vet and he needs to make room in his garage, that Hellcat makes sense. I hate to see the car go. It's a fantastic package. It's proven itself to be incredibly durable. And it's going to be tough to beat in that respect as far as the durability aspect. I think that the Vet is going to prove itself to be a lot of fun for him, and I think it's going to do well for the channel. And hope for him all the best. And I think he will do very well with it. I can understand his position though, and he's had the Hellcat for a while. It might be, he just might be ready to shake things up a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see where he takes that car for sure. P.S. Sam saying, what's the recipe for success? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. If I say it enough, maybe it'll come to me. Let's see. Canada guys saying, Sam saying 2016 second year, fixed a lot of bugs. Here's the funny thing. The Hellcat didn't really have a lot of bugs coming into it. This is one of the few cars that I can say 2015, no problem. This car has been amazing. So, but yeah, I know what you mean by that. We're saying the way I drive my car, he's talking to Sean. I just came to the conclusion that I need to go back to Mickey Thompson ET Street SS's. It just sucks that I'm losing so much money. Yeah, like I say, man, I'm surprised. I would possibly give Nitto a shout and see if see if you can have some kind of a recourse, because my road trip setup is Tri 5Rs for this car. MG42 Pillbox, I like it. Saying May 2020, the last month, Dodge will make the Grand Caravan the most hated and scariest Mopar ever. The Ford and GM haters can sleep for now. That's awesome. MG, when you race a minivan, you lose no matter what. Actually, I knew a guy, funny you should mention that. I knew a guy who had a Caravan that had the 2.5 liter turbo. It's the old single overhead cam 2-valve. I think it was intercooled though, and he put 100 shot on that thing. I don't know if he ever took it to the drag strip, but I know the damn thing was fast on the street. So I don't know. He used to mess with 5 liter Fox bodies all the time. That's how far back that one goes. Them boys is saying, that's why I don't understand why Ford did that DCT when they should have put a beefed up 10-speed or 6 or 7-speed manual. I'm not really sure. I think that it had more to do with the image of that car in the eyes of the world market. And, I don't know, like I've said before, they made a car that only a journalist can love. And that's never a good thing. It's not an enthusiast's car, in my opinion. It's a car, it's certainly, I'll put it to you like this, all right? It is not a grassroots car. It is nothing of the sort, and because it's not familiar. It's not comfort food for the soul the way that a Hellcat is, or the way that a ZL1 is. Yeah, those are comfort food for the soul, for the old school grassroots racer that wants to go out and run low 11s or low 10s. Those are the cars you can do it with, or for the 5 liter Mustang. Yeah, the same thing. I mean, get out there and run mid 11s with your stock car on a drag pack, swap your wheels and tires out, drive it to work, and you're none the worse for wear with those vehicles. With the DCT stuff, I've always got this nagging, like this knuckle biting, what if moment hanging out there. Like, what if this thing breaks? What would it cost me? Would it even be warrantable? These are the things that would really spook me about having that car. So it's not really a question of, is it going to be faster? Is it going to do this better or that better? It's, number one, the fact that it's not a comfortable place for me to be. And number two, it's like a compromise that skirts the worst of both worlds. And so far, here's the big problem. So this is one of those situations with a GT500 where, if you were worried about the transmission and then had those worries validated by the YouTubes with the Mustang GT500 going into limp mode at the drag strip, it's all, how often does that happen? Probably not very often, right? But it happens a lot in an area where you want to be having fun with your car. It happens to happen when you're loading the car up really hard, and it shouldn't fail at that point. That's when you're in it to win it. Literally. And that's the biggest problem that I have, is that right when you need it to shine the most, it could potentially go into limp mode. It's not that the car doesn't function as an automobile 99.99% of the time. It's when you take it to the drag strip and you want to show it off and it fails. That's a huge problem. But it validates everybody's fears. And I'm afraid that it's driving people away from the GT500 straight into the arms of the new Corvette, or straight into the arms of a Mopar, maybe a ZL1, but they're not buying the GT500. And that was really kind of part of the question that I was asking. I never really got to that point because it's me and I can't really ever get to a point without, I don't know, circling the globe a couple of times. But the reality is that, have people not been taking their cars to the drag strip because they're simply not ordering these things? Are the sales just not there? Are the sales really only there if you have a successful YouTube channel and want that car and need it for the tax write-off and the revenue generation potential? I don't know, but I haven't seen them at the drag strip, and with a town as big as H-Town, you would think you'd have seen 4 or 5. And I mean, like, you'd have thought you'd have saw a herd of these things show up, just ready to kick everybody's ass. And that's not the case. Would have been the case if they'd have had that 10-speed auto in there. Oh well, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Let's see. Oh, Ashley's saying, talking about, I saved the read file a few times just in case, and that they're loving HP tuners. Awesome, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, send it to everybody you know too. That way you've got access to it for that read file. Tyler Rose saying, how much do you think the Hellcat Durango would cost? I don't know, probably $75,000. Miguel is asking, when do you think the new Challenger will come? You know, we've been told 2023, but we were also told 2021, and before that we were also told 2019. So without overly speculating, I'm going to say 2023, you'll start hearing word about it. 2024, you'll have a release. But that's just me. It's a guess. It's a somewhat educated guess. There were a couple of leaked things here recently, but nothing really even worth talking about. I don't really want to get too deep into that, but we're kind of hearing 2023 as being the announcement year, one way or another. Catalyst 99 saying, do you not see the GT500 because dealers are overcharging for them? Come to think of it, I've never seen one at the racetrack. Random question, is the Camaro LT1 the best priced muscle car in the market? So a few things. It could be. I mean, it could be guys who are just scared away from the car right now. It's, asking too much over sticker for them. But listen, there's a lot of guys with a lot of money that don't mind spending over sticker for cars. And that's not the problem. I think the biggest problem here is I think they just may be scared away from the car in general. I can tell you, by the way, that I know of 2 people that canceled their orders for GT500s. So there's that, one of which is getting a vet. So one of the canceled cars actually canceled it and is now getting a vet. And then, is the Camaro LT1 the best priced muscle car on the market? To say that it's the best price, you've got to bring it to the question of actual value. What is the value of, each dollar that you're spending? How much bang for the buck, basically, are you getting? It would be tough to argue that point, but I would say that a Scat Pack Core would be very high up on the list of best bang for the buck if we're talking about brand new cars. In that case, Scat Pack Core, you're getting a car that is known to be an 1180, 1170 car on a drag pack with no other modifications and very good conditions. I've seen them run 1190s in kind of average condition. So there's that. If you're into just the muscle car, if you're into handling and doing a little bit more with that car, if you're more into maybe doing closed circuit, I don't know, it would be tough. Honestly, though, to beat the Mustang. I mean, look at the cost of a base grade Mustang GT with a, you know, with whatever transmission you want. And I mean, you can get these things for, you know, what is it, like 30 grand, 27 grand or something like that. So it's so difficult to say which one is the best. It all depends on what you're looking for and what fits your needs. The good thing is that there are lower cost options out there, but they're still relatively expensive. I mean, you're still not going to spend any less, to be honest with you, than around 30 to 32 grand. So play your cards right, find one that's been sitting on a dealer's lot for a while. They may be willing to wheel and deal with you, but and that, to that point, by the way, that might be a reason why the Camaro would do well as far as a value proposition, because a lot of them do sit on dealer lots. You have the Challenger and the Mustang outsold Camaro pretty handily towards the end of last year. But with it being more or less a base grade car with nothing more than a V8, I mean, it's great from a value proposition in that point, especially if you're planning on doing mods to it. If it were me, to be honest with you, man, I mean, it would be heads, cam, intake, gear, drag pack, converter. I'd, you know, go out and run mid-10s with a freaking NA Camaro and call it good. And Dr. Dev saying, agreed, can't stand that the Camaro has gone to crap. Wish they would do something better with them. I used to be such a Camaro fan. Hell, he's owned 5 of them. I know it. Go74, oh damn, saying, so I found my stolen pickup that's been missing for 4 years. I'm currently tearing the engine down, but I noticed there are some rust in the cylinder heads and pistons. Should I get a new 350 SBC? Yeah, at this point, I mean, you could send them off to the machine shop. Most of the time, those issues are pretty easy to deal with, but if you're seeing a significant amount of rust, I mean, it's going to have to go to the machine shop anyway to get, for sure, bored. Heads are going to have to be decked. There's going to be a lot of work that's going to go into that could go towards a brand new engine. So probably go that route. Congrats on finding your old ride, but sucks about the power plant. And to your question, or is it safe to rebuild it? Yeah, it's always safe to rebuild it. I mean, you know, guys do that stuff all the time. It just depends on how deep you want to go into it. What type of pistons, what type of rods. Now's a great opportunity to build a 400 stroker or something like that, though. AFR heads, cam, just depends on what your budget's going to allow. Check with your machine shop, but you can definitely bring it back to life. That's not a problem whatsoever. Guys do it all the time. Let's see. Dark Div saying, seems like the lifter tick could also be a cam hardening issue. I've seen several locked up lifters, but also seen stock cam lobes grind off and cause a misfire when the lifter is still roll while damaged. Yeah, a lot of times what's happened with those is the lifter fails and it kills the cam. I've heard of issues with the cam metallurgy not being all that great. There's all kinds of weird stuff but that's Mopar for you. I mean, we've heard issues with the Mopars like that for a while, but I've also heard issues with the GMs with their DOD systems as well. So who knows? Philip Spain's asking, thoughts on a 392 wide body versus a used Hellcat? Go with the Hellcat. MG42, they need the Hellcat and the Pacifica all-wheel drive. That would actually, I'd be in on that. Hell yeah. Alex Andrews is saying, are those upgraded lifters still available? Oh yeah, all the new lifters are the new upgraded lifters. I'd love to replace the stock ones in my 392 before they become an issue, although I'm only at 32,000 miles. Yeah, all the new lifters are of the new, or at least, yeah, all the new lifters are spec with the better bearings. So you're in good shape there. It would be a bit of an ask, though, to go tearing into an engine on the speculation that you might have a bad set of lifters. I would probably err on the side of optimism and say that you're not really going to have any issues with them. Well, that is until you do. So I probably wouldn't start messing with it now. But at some point, I would say probably around 70,000 miles, you might want to start looking into it. Just saying. All right, let's see. Dr. Div saying, switch that Hellcat to some MS-109 and run a tank through it to dial it in, then go run that 9 and piss everybody off. Yeah, no kidding, right? They'll really be coming after my ass on that one. But I have thought about getting a drum at MS-109 and just get started on the tuning on that end. Oh, Dr. Div saying, I got a good race gas hookup in Santa Fe. I'll have to get you hooked up with him if you do the race gas tune. I may be giving you a shout about that. Let's see. Ripped is asking, is it okay to dyno a car with drag radials? I keep hearing different answers. I'm just wondering what your opinion is. I hate dynoing cars with drag radials. It depends on the drag radial too. It can make a complete mess. So here's the thing, with the ET Street R's, I would not dyno a car. I'd tell the guy to come back. Just not going to bother with it. It'll gnarl up the tires, eats the tires up, and makes a complete mess on the dyno. If it's a set of Tri-5Rs, it doesn't really matter. They're a hard enough compound where it really doesn't matter that much. Plus, they're a treaded tire, so the tread itself doesn't get as hot. But I can tell you that a set of Mickey Thompson ET Street SS's will absolutely make a mess of a dyno. So in that case, yeah, no. So if it's Mickey Thompson's, don't put it on a dyno. If it's the Nittos, you'll be fine. But just know that it could potentially eat up the tires just a little bit. Miguel saying a BMW 335 smoked his scat pack. BMW 335 is actually a pretty fast car, and they are very underrated in terms of power. All the BMWs are. Jerry's saying staying mode's wife set that 10.5. Well, sweet. That's awesome. Dr. Div is saying, he's hollering out at a Canada guy with his ship points. Smoking at 5 saying, I love traveling my TA 392, great for road trips. How far can you take a 392 power-wise before it ruins the grand touring prowess? That's a subjective question, because for some people, what might ruin things for one could be just fine for another. So I'll say this, if you stay stock cam and you go with just exhaust mods, basically FBO car, full bolt-on car, that is the sweet spot. You can go with a mild cam and still retain that sweet spot designation, but really anything more than that, and I just don't think that it's going to be as much fun. And I would say that you will have spent a lot more on the car than it's really worth at that point. So I would say FBO stock cam, that's about the farthest I would take it. If the budget allows for it, go with a small cam, but hopefully that answers the question. I just wouldn't get too radical with it. Symphonics is saying Stangmo was also on a tire and gutted at ATCO in March. Unimpressed. I can understand your point on that, especially if it's gutted like that. I don't know. I mean, on a tire, absolutely. For me, it's a safety question. Tire, should have a tire on it, but gutted, hey, that's the game we're playing, man. And I'm just not in on the game, I guess. Derek saying, I came from an off-road background. I grew up in the desert. I was in the Army, when I was in the Army, I spent time in Germany and Japan. I owned Skylines, BMWs, STIs. Then I got the 392, best car, hands down. A lot of guys that are coming from imports love the 392, and the reason why they like it so much, and I've talked to them about this, is because it is such a major departure from what they've had, especially if what you've had is somewhere in the 400 horsepower range in terms of an import. They just absolutely love them. Yeah, they're big, but they make a ton of torque and they have a lot of horsepower too, and it is such the bookend, the two completely different driving experiences. And that's one of the reasons that I hear from those guys that they love the Mopar so much is because they are such a different car. And I've said this before too. I mean, you can have a Mustang and a Scat Pack in your garage, and you've covered literally both ends of the spectrum in terms of driving experience. So for a sports car and muscle car. Vince is saying, thanks a lot, B. I'll look out for all those points. Yeah, I'm going to talk to the dealer about getting multi-point inspection through a Dodge dealer. I like it. Got the arm flex. Good deal, brother. Yeah, check it out. Spend your time wisely. Don't let them rush you. Take your time. Take a bunch of pictures. That's the main thing. Is just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey. Let's see. Rift is asking, is the 2015 Hellcat built in June considered one of the early ones? No. That would be a late production run 2015. July would kick off the 2016 model year. Shawnee saying, your car has probably been down the track 200 times. Actually, more than that. How are your rear brakes liking all the burnouts? I don't even think about it, but I've only raced maybe 30 times down the drag strip. Mine are doing great. In fact, I mean, they're not even discolored or anything. They just keep on trucking. So, yeah, no issues. I probably have about 300 passes down the track at this point, I think. F. Joe's saying, B-Mace, hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, man. Saying, to back up your point about engine durability, mine's got 72,000 miles and still healthy. I love it. Yeah, I've seen, listen, that's nothing, bro. I've seen over 100,000 miles. I've seen daily driven Chargers with 120,000 miles. These are Hellcats. Guys just keep changing the oil, putting gas in them, and I mean, just having a ball with them. So yeah, they're great in terms of durability. I'm glad to see it, man. Your car's just barely getting broken in, brother. White Knuckle RT saying, yeah, the late 17 and up, Uconnect with the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are much better than the early 17 and older. Yeah, tell me about it. Dim Boys Running saying, I'm getting closer to getting my next car. I can't wait to build this car the way that he wants it. Very nice. And getting back to that Uconnect question, or the Uconnect comment too, from White Knuckles. So just so you guys know, the Uconnect every year seems to get better. So where the 15s and 16s might have been a little bit glitchy, the 17s are certainly better as far as, you know, the glitch and the just the font and the way that it looks is a little bit crisper, and then you get into the 18s and 19s, which are really good. So not that there's any difference in functionality. They all give basically the same type of info until you get into like the 18s and 19s with the dynos and all that stuff. But the reality is that, yeah, if we're talking about Uconnect, it is what it is, man. I don't know what else to tell you. But at the time, it was really trick stuff. Xcash is saying, hey, Mason, I just picked up a 392 shaker with a 6-speed, and I'm loving it. What would it take to get it to the 500 horsepower to the crank? Really, not to the crank. You're already sort of there. Tune, Hellcat airbox. Well, you don't need the Hellcat airbox. You got the shaker airbox. Hellcat air filter will help. And a good tank of gas on a cool day. I mean, you're already basically right there for 500 at the crank. So you're in really good shape with that, actually. And man, really, since it's a 6-speed car, you might be able to just get away with a pedal commander, keep good gas in it, Hellcat air filter, and call it good. Oh, and don't forget to do your clutch line mod too. Samuel Jackson's asking, where do you think the Challenger will go in the future? I mean, can you only put so much horsepower in it, right? Well, you know, it's sort of, you know, I mean, we're looking at 800 plus horsepower right now out of this platform, and it seems to hold it just fine. I mean, you got to keep in mind that, you know, there are plenty of guys with E55s back in the day pushing 750, 800 horsepower with this platform, and it seems to hold it pretty well, especially overseas. You would see a lot of that. So I wouldn't say that we're really looking at any limits in terms of power. I think really what we're looking at is what will how do we keep the platform viable regardless of power output? How do we keep it viable and modern moving forward? Does that include or is that limited to weight reduction? We start looking at another redesign or a restyle. Those are the things that I'm looking at. Is there any way to gain any efficiency? In other words, can we get an aluminum block? Is there, cylinder liners that can reduce friction the way that you see with some of the, like the Sky Active type stuff? Those are the kind of things that I'd be looking for. I really wouldn't look for any major departure from where we're at now. It's just really not going to be in the cards. And the main reason for it is that the platform doesn't accommodate much else than what's going into it now. If you've ever looked, there's actually it's a pretty cramped engine compartment in these things, so tough to get more into them. Johnny's saying, congratulations, X Cash. Absolutely, congratulations. Then boy's saying that could be why you haven't seen the GT500. The markup is ridiculous. That is way too much for Mustang. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, Shawnee's saying, wait, 500 at the crank? That's easy to do. Yep. See, Go 74's in saying, thank you for the advice. Time to give this small block life again. I like it. Yes. Out there and have some fun with it, brother. Great opportunity to build a little 383 out of that thing. AFR 205 heads. Any of the 282-ish cams from Comp. 274 be another good one. XE 274 is I think the grind on that for the small blocks. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that. X-Cash is saying, thanks, Sean. I still remember seeing the shaker next to the Hellcat back in late 14, and I knew that I wanted one. I like it. Dr. Diff saying, yeah, Chevy DOD lifters are junk too. Does the same as MDS on the Dodge. Yep, they're all trash. Argarassi's checking in saying, hey, brother, glad to see you. Glad to see you checking in too. Dr. Diff saying, quick question. My truck goes on the dyno Saturday. What do you think it'll make? Going to creep up boost to about 18 PSI. I'll run it on 18 at Texas 2K. What's the number? 18 PSI in fourth gear. I'm going to say if it's going on to a dyno jet, it's tough to say. Depends on what wheels you actually have on the back of it, because that will make a difference. But in fourth gear with your street setup, I would say you're going to be somewhere in the... Let me think about this for a minute. So the truck has already gone 11.1 at 14 pounds of boost. I would say you're probably 700-ish horsepower, at least to the rear wheels. Something like that. Maybe 740 to the rear wheels. It's going to be tough to say. But somewhere in that neck of the woods. It'll be scaring 800, I think. Based on the weight of your truck, I think it'll be scaring 800. Rip is saying, I noticed that my car will read 1 second off on the quarter mile readout compared to the time I get. Is this because of rollout? So always 1 second slower than my time slip. I don't know that, because mine is really accurate. So some of them are more accurate than others. I think some of it may have to do with wheel spin or something along those lines. But I would say it would be close to, like mine is, dead on when it comes to ET. Through the eighth and through the quarter mile. So if yours is reading slower, it could have something to do with rollout, but like I say, mine is dead on accurate. Oh, 0.1 off. Oh yeah, that's just rollout. That's nothing. That's more an anomaly, or I should say, within the noise. It's just there's a fudge factor in there. So yeah, no, you're in good shape. Shawnee said, yeah, I ran the 10.0 in Texas, and my dash said 10.0, 10.07. So I've actually had very good luck with my dash time slip being within 1/10. So yeah, I know mine's real accurate. Rip is saying, so if it says he ran 10.7, then he ran a 10.6. Could be that. It could certainly be that. It depends on the tire size that you're running also. That can have an effect there. If you're running a 28-inch tall tire, then it'll be pretty accurate. Samuel's asking, what is the widest tire you can fit on the Hellcat, and what would be considered too wide just for street use? I don't plan on going to the drag strip. So here's the thing, 305 is considered to be the widest you can run. There are some guys that have made 315s work, but that might be with a tire like a Toyo or something like that, where their 315 is really as wide as, say, a Nitto 305. There's a little bit of a fudge factor at play there. So, but I would stick to the 305 and you'll be safe. And that's what I would stick with. Samuel's saying, also keeping that price in mind, what would be the best tire width? Is there a compromise? If you were on stock wheels, I would say that, you know, a 275/45, your stock width in a Tri-5R is going to be a great overall tire, you know, for fair weather driving. I've driven Tri-5Rs in monsoon. In fact, they're sitting over there, not like showing you the tire makes a difference with this. That's silly. I don't know why I went there. But anyway, every time we've gone on road trips, we've gotten stuck in some kind of a monsoon scenario, and the Tri-5Rs work great in the rain. So, and that's on back roads in the middle of the Texas Hill Country. Didn't have any issues whatsoever. So, there's that to consider when we're talking about tire size and the right tire and everything else. So, but I would say the best size, again, it depends on the wheel that you're on. You can make 305/35s work, but they might rub a little bit. I would stick with the stock size with the Nittos, and I think you'll be in good shape. White Knuckle, man, I appreciate it. 549's a little bit of the tire fund. I love it. Yeah, no, that's going to be coming quick, by the way. In fact, I got to get those things ordered here in the next week or two. Thank you very much for the contribution, brother. I appreciate that very much. Very much, in fact. Shawnee's saying 10.5-inch wide Hellcat wheels can, or 10.5-inch, the replicas can run 305s, which is what I run on my car. He's saying that he ordered a set of 315s. I'll check and give an update. Might require wheel well modding. Yeah, there's a lot more to that might. It's going to probably require it. Let's see. Aperture is asking, you gonna watch the new Fast and Furious to see all the Chargers and Challengers to seem realistic stunts? That black Charger in the trailer is sick, though. Yeah, I mean, it's a fun popcorn movie. I think that they're starting to get to that jump the shark phase, but yeah, I'll watch it. I like that stuff. Chaos of the Unicorns is in. Saying, hey, B, maybe a dumb question, but I keep finding conflicting answers on this. But what's the max width street tire you can put on a 9.5-inch wheel without messing up the contact patch? 275. So that's realistically the widest you can go to have a straight from the bead. So if this part of my hand is the bead, this part would be the outside of that rim, right? Because the bead's just inside. The 275, when you look at it, that line of sight is actually, that load is a direct line of sight straight to the ground. That is going to offer the most efficient use of a contact patch. If you go any wider than that, it may have a bit more of an aesthetic appeal. So like a 295 as opposed to a 75 may just look a little bit better on the back of the car, but that look is going to come at the expense of tire weight. Now you can go with 305/35. Here's the problem with that, though. If you've ever seen a 305/35 on a 9.5-inch wide wheel, you've got about that much on either side that just kind of sticks out past the bead. I'm not talking about the edge of the rim, but the bead, and you'll see them. It looks like a motorcycle tires when they don't ever lean the bike over chicken strips. It kind of looks like that. So. Just kind of a heads up. Proper tire width is going to be a 275, maybe a 295. Let's see. Not a dumb question. Good question, by the way. I'm sure saying shifting gears 16 times per scene, no doubt, right? Hey, you want to ever watch a car scene where they're shifting gears way too many times? Watch Bullet. Let's see. Even when I was a little kid, I was going, my God, they're shifting gears a lot. Let's see. Oh, Chaos is saying for a Charger all-wheel drive. In that case, yeah, 275s all the way around. Let's see. Sam was saying, I would want to change to a lighter rim to support the 305 and have a lower profile. Any good light rim suggestions? Probably Forge Line at that point. If you're looking to get a lighter wheel that's a little bit wider, that would be the best value for $1, I think, would be the Forge Lines. Because they are strong and you want a strong wheel. Shawnee's saying, good night to everybody. He's going to hit the hay. Good night, brother. Thank you for hanging out. Let's see. Ernesto's in. What's up, brother? Saying, what up, B? Congrats on your time. Awesome to have been there when you did it. Have to get with you about porting a 6.4 manifold when I get one for the truck. Looking for low to mid 11s by the end of the year. I like it. Let me know when you are ready. I will come by and pick it up. Riff's checking out with Shawnee. Let's see. Saying it sucks. We both have the same problem where our phone says, oh, all the time. Let's see. White Knuckles saying that's a red-eye Charger in the new Fast and Furious movie. We will see it Spring Fest. Oh, I like it. Cool. If that's the case, that's awesome. Google. Shawnee's saying Google does that when I try to say comma. I'm right there with you on that. Rich is saying same. After saying Sublime Green or F8. I really like F8. Saw it on a Durango, almost like satin gray green. Pretty neat. I like F8 a lot. I like that color. It's a little bit more subtle. The only thing though is that Sublime is more of a traditional Mopar color. And I can't help but when I see a Sublime car, it just, I see it, I'm just like, all right, man, I like that. So, F8 is pretty and I like it a lot, but if it's me picking out the color, my wife would disagree with me, but I would have to go Sublime, man. I would have to. Ripped is asking, do I have my car ceramic coated? No, I don't. I don't have the bottle sitting in front of me, but I've got it's typically Zymoiled. But here lately, it's just been squirted with the Maguires and call it good. In fact, poor car needs a bath badly. Talking about White Knuckles say the new Mojave's pretty cool, kind of military looking. Yep, on the Jeep. Yes, it is. Pretty cool looking Jeep. That's the desert rated one, I believe, which they need to put a V8 in that thing or at least put a decent turbocharged V6 in it. Samuel Jackson saying, with the Hellcat, I heard the brakes squeak and dust a lot. Yeah, they do. And they do weigh a significant amount. Can you do a conversion to regular non-drill brakes, or would that be unsafe? No, you can. Actually, there's a company called Demon Brake Rotors, makes a set of rotors that are really good. I think they're cross-drilled, but they're not, or they're notched, but they're not drilled. They're good, and they're a little bit lighter too. There are guys that have done brake conversions. I just don't really recommend it because these are heavy cars and I want as much brakes as I can get underneath a heavy car like this. So, but the Demon rotors are supposed to be pretty good. In fact, at the shop, we put those on a customer's car and they really worked well. So, but they do squeak and they do dust up quite a bit. So I've got power stops on this one. The brake pads are decent. And they don't squeak and they don't dust, which are a big part of that. Let's see. Oh, Rich saying when he bought his car, it came with a bunch of paperwork, and some of it was that it was ceramic coated and the receipts for that. But the previous owner says that he had it taken off. Is that possible? Yeah, you can strip the coating off of it if you wanted to. I don't know why you really want to. trying to think of a good reason to take it off of it, but yeah, no, they make some chemicals that will get that off. Let's see. Dr. Div saying I missed his comment. What I missed? But I'll be on street setup. Oh, I didn't see it. Be on street setup and locked in Ford via the tune, 30-inch Nitto 420s. Can't wait. I'd love to see 800, but 740, I'll be happy. Yeah, on a dyno jet, like I say, it's gonna be tough, man, on 30-inch Nittos. But yeah, no, you should be able to twist that to. I mean, I would say, I think somewhere in the sevens, right? I mean, if it's running 11.1 or 11.0. in a truck that's that heavy, it's got to be making some steam, bro. So, I mean, that's more or less kind of Hellcat numbers. I mean, we'll just have to see. You know, certainly, it'll be making some decent power at 18 pounds of boost. Oh, you say you took it off to do paint correction. That would make sense. White Knuckles saying that new Jeep color Mojave's a military flat green. What am I thinking of? What's the new? What's the new? What are they calling the latest Jeep? This one's the desert rated. Anyway, I get so there's so many different Jeeps. I kind of went to a weird spot on that one. The only Jeep that I need to know about is my wife's, and that Grand Cherokee that I want so bad. But yeah, no, I love Jeeps too. Still want to do a build on one. Just so happens there's one sitting about 10 yards away from me right now. Talking about the color on for Dodge next year. Okay, yeah, I know they've got a new Jeep. I don't know. It's got something else done to it for desert stuff that's coming out. So maybe that's why I was thinking of that. Let's see. Sam was saying, thanks for your infinite knowledge, Mr. Mason. Thank you for hanging out with me. He said, you're a legend. Well, I don't know about that, but thank you for the kind words. Going to check out for the night. Keep watching for the other questions. Thank you, brother, man. I appreciate that. And I'm going to be checking out here pretty soon, too. I'm going to get through these questions, and I got to split. Dr. Div saying, good show tonight. Appreciate the content. B, can't wait to see you at the track soon. Absolutely. So we can see what this thing does finally at 18 PSI. You called it. Have a good night, brother. Love your show. Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Aperture is saying, I saw a few recent reviews about the newest revisions of the Challenger's Chargers saying that the interior quality has taken a hit due to budget focusing on engine and exterior trim options. Gladiator Mojave, maybe that's what it was. I don't know. And yeah, the Gladiator, they got something going on with that thing. I just can't remember what it was. Sorry, it's late. My brain's fried after today. So, I don't know if the interiors have gone down. I know that they value engineered some of the interiors where you can get cloth seats and things like that, where it was before you had to get like leather option for the Hellcats and stuff like that. So maybe that was part of that. I'm not sure though. Speed Freak saying, thinking about a 2014 Jeep SRT as a daily, they seem to hold value. Seen a few with 50,000 miles, still around 40 grand. The only thing that I would watch out for that though would be lifters. So be careful about that. Dr. Div saying, did 11.1 on 12 PSI. Ooh, yeah. We're just gonna have to see what she makes, brother. The truck's gonna be pissed. I'm gonna love it. Can't wait to hear how she does. Donald Power saying, Mr. Mason, what's up, Donald? R. Grossi's checking in saying, hitting the sack, me, take it easy, bro. You do the same, man. AZ Independent saying, what up? Hey, you mentioned the Pedal Commander and wanted to know your opinion. For FYI, F8 has been around a lot longer than the Sublime and had a 68 Charger RT with a 6-pack painted it. Yeah, no, I get it. That kind of goes back to Guards Green with Ford was the same kind of idea, that same kind of a dark, rich green. You had, what was the other colors? There were a few of them like that, but I never do associate anything from the muscle car era with that color. For some reason, I remember being a kid and there's like this weird, association that I always had with Dodge with you know, the colors like Sublime, and not really plum crazy because it just didn't pop out of a magazine. But Sublime was a big one, and Sunfire Yellow. Those were the two that always really caught my eye. But yeah, no, I do like, you know, I like the more subtle colors, like the F8, always thought looked really good on Coronets for some reason. Coronets or Savoys or Belvederes just had that gangster look, you know, just that dude in the corner that you just kind of don't want to mess with. I always thought those colors were just so tough looking. But I always associated muscle car and stuff like that with the brighter colors. White Knuckles saying, great show. Thank you as always. Thank you very much. Got the fist pump. Appreciate it. Rich saying, thanks for the info tonight. Guess I just hit the gas too hard for the Netto Tri-5R, so going back to Mickey Thompson in a few days anyway. Have a great night. Y'all have a good one. Yeah, like I say, man, just checking, man. Might have just been a bad batch. You never know, brother. Let's see. Aperture saying Dodge has 17 trim levels for the Challenger alone. I think that's a bit excessive, but to each their own. I can agree with that. I can't even keep up with them all. I don't even want to try to start naming them off. I'll get maybe a third of the way through, and I'll run out of options. So I'm right there with you on that one. Chaos saying, so one more question. What are your thoughts on staggered wheel for an all-wheel drive car? I've heard that's bad for some and good from others. So I don't know what the hell in regarding. I wouldn't go with a staggered wheel and tire setup on an all-wheel drive car. You can kind of get away with them, but you have to, in certain circumstances, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but fluid couplers, you can get away with it. The issue is that you want to have as close to the same size as you can get, and I would probably err on the side of caution and just leave them all the same size. And don't forget, you got to rotate them every 5,000 miles. Let's see. After you're saying, I heard for all-wheel drive Durango, staggered wheel or mismatched treading will cause a service. Oh, it will for sure. All-wheel drive. It will. You can very strong potential, I should say, for check engine lights on that. And no, it's a real thing. Oh, F5 green. White Knuckles saying F5 green is what I'm thinking of. It's a bit lighter than F8. It might be. It might be. Like I say, I don't. Man, it's been a while since I was checking out color charts, but man, I do remember those colors on those cars. F8, F5, those are all really good looking colors, man. From the old school stuff. Man, I love the old school stuff. I wish, you know, the thing is that I wish we had more support for the old school stuff down here. We just don't really see a lot of it. A lot of it has to do with the fact that there's just not a lot left, and that kind of sucks. And I'll be the first to admit too, I mean, when I see them, I get a little starstruck because I loved them so much as a kid, but you know, because Mopar kind of quit making cars like that, or at least cars that I could afford when I was a kid, I don't know. Anyway, I just, yeah, I need to brush up on my old school stuff. Aperture, most important question, would you ever LS swap your Challenger if given deep discount on a crate motor? All necessarily wiring, mounts, etc. Nope, not a chance in hell for me to do that. Mainly because it wouldn't do any good. I can make the same power as any modified LS out of one of the Hemis. It's just, and they're all basically the same. I mean, a Hemi's got better head flow. Typically, you make a little bit more with a Hemi actually than an LS. It just requires more work. So, LS swap, really not in the cards ever for a Mopar. Mopar guy would rather sell his dog than do an LS swap. It would never happen. The only way you would do that is if you're building like a drag car, it's a Dart, and you don't want to go through the Mopar tax of repowering or repowering it anyway. You don't want to go through Mopar tax. A lot of guys will go LS with that, and it's just kind of the way that it is. Rip is saying we have a lot of old school stuff out here in California. Guys, you got to remember, I used to live in San Francisco, so yeah, I would see old school stuff all the time. In fact, there was a guy that had a Bullet Charger, the black Charger, had a recreated black Charger. I saw him going up and down 280 every day in that car. Javelins, AMXs, Mustangs. There's an old man that drove a Boss 429 up and down 280. I would see him about once every 2 or 3 months driving that car. I don't think that car had ever been washed. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. California's got a lot of sweet old school muscle, but yeah, I miss it. I miss San Francisco, man. I had a lot of fun. If you ever get the chance, go down to go run Blackhawk up into La Honda, go to Alice's for me, man. Get a burger. I used to live right up the street from there. Oh, you still see the Sierra Monte? Yeah, up there. Okay, cool. That's all. Yeah, I mean, that guy's up there all the time with that car. Used to see him running up and down there all the time. Well, guys, I got to check out. We are at 2 hours. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. Thank y'all for being a part of the show and contributing to the show. Can't wait to see you guys at the next one, and won't have any drag strip stuff anytime real soon. Track's going to be a little bit booked, but we got 2K coming up, and for you guys who are going to be out acting a fool during 2K, just be careful out there, man. Johnny Law's got a little something for you. There's a lot of narcs this year, so be careful. If you've come to H-Town for 2K, mind your P's and Q's, buddy. They are going to be swarming on you this year. So anyway, that is a wrap on this one. I hope y'all have a great one. Catch you on the next one. Adios.